Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Chase and Cuss, where we watch the stupid people do those stupid things that they do to get themselves arrested. We got the link to the original video in the description below, so give them a thumbs up, a like, and all that good stuff. And also, same for us. Let's get going here.
Like to be a CHP pursuit. Stu, what do we know?
Well, we know this started way up off the 15, and they were chasing this expedition with Arizona plates. I don't really know the original one. It looked like it was reckless, possibly involved in an accident. I was reading some of the stuff on the CHP CAD before we actually took off out of Van Nuys, but you can see this vehicle's moving along at a pretty good clip. I'm going to start bringing up some of the information so we can follow along on the ground, but I'm guessing that this vehicle is probably just about maybe in the 90-mile-an-hour mark right now. California Highway Patrol, they're behind it, and they are not giving this thing up.
Oh, there
They've been behind it for quite a bit.
78.
Let's take a look if we can see what that driver looks like. We literally just got over it, then we went live. You can see some damage there on the side of the vehicle. That probably was part of that collision that they were originally talking about. Appears to be possibly a female driving that vehicle, and you see some of that damage right there. The interesting part is that it is Arizona plates. This vehicle has basically made its way from the 15 over to the 91 and has been staying on the 91 ever since. You can see those lane changes, high speeds. Look at that, almost triple digits. But the lane changes, that's what's really bothering me. And of course, we just made our way onto the southbound 5 freeway. This is going to be, are we doing south? We're doing north, aren't we? This says south 5, but I think we're going northbound. I'm looking out the window. But you can see it right there right now. Not a lot of traffic this Friday afternoon. That vehicle did do a good choice as far as traffic goes. California Highway Patrol, number of vehicles behind it. But they will be passing through many a different jurisdiction, especially if this keeps going. So those CHP vehicles, they're going to start switching out eventually. And, of course, they have a California Highway Patrol helicopter above it as well. And, again, you can see these high speeds as it's continuing on that 5 freeway.
Ooh, clocking 114, 113 miles per hour right now. I know the information right now, Stu, is preliminary. We do have some information that has come in that maybe the original want was a hit and run at Barstow and Ranchero. So that may be what started all this, a possible hit and run. And then I guess this suspect took off, and here we are. Apparently CHP pursuing this, again, this white Ford Expedition. There is some damage on the driver's side, driver's side door. There you see the damage right there, the black skid marks along the side of that vehicle. Again, we don't know, but some information coming in that could be possible hit and run, which started all this. And right now you say this driver driving very, very fast on the northbound 5 freeway.
Northbound 5 freeway, and you can see it right there. It's going through Rosecrans. So right now we're in the Norwalk Downey area. You know, these type of high speeds, and now you can see it in the emergency lane. When they do this, I always get a little bit, do that, oh my goodness, what's going on? But then I also get a little kind of happy because I think to myself, there's a lot of debris out there in those emergency lanes. Maybe they're going to pick up a nail, something that's going to puncture one of those tires and maybe bring it to an end peacefully and slowly. But look at this, 103 miles an hour passing vehicles in that emergency lane, like the emergency lane in that carpool lane, almost like they're standing still. That traffic really starting to build. This is going to get very worrisome as we get closer and closer to the downtown Los Angeles area. A lot of traffic out there. These high speeds, they cannot continue as that lane is going to be going away here shortly. And, you know, this is all over a hit and run with a minor, just a little bit of paint swap, maybe some damage to the running board. You got to wonder what else is going on, why this person is running and so erratically with this you know, intent to just not talk to law enforcement. Law enforcement, by the way, still behind it. California Highway Patrol, they're in the lead. They have a helicopter above it. That helicopter making calls to the guys on the ground as they might not be doing this type of dangerous driving. I'm going to stay a little bit wider. I won't lose the car, but you can see them. They're actually right there. One of the lead vehicles is right behind it and staying in that emergency lane at speeds of over 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, wow, what a pursuit. What a fast car chase right here. You only see one black and white, though, behind that vehicle at this point from this vantage point. But, Stu, I want to say that even though there's minimal damage on this car, if this, in fact, was a hit and run, you wonder what happened to the other guy, right? What did this vehicle run into? Now we're stuck in traffic, which is certainly some good news. Hopefully not dangerous, erratic driving, though, for other drivers out there on the road.
Definitely, you know, we saw that vehicle almost come to a complete stop. That is actually appreciated. I like it. A lot of these folks doing what they're supposed to do. They're hearing those lights and sirens from that vehicle behind it. They're moving out of the way, being predictable, getting out of the way of that law enforcement vehicle. But that also is giving that suspect a path to keep continuing as they're driving. This is one of those ones where it's good and bad. I never want to see anybody get hurt along with law enforcement. Law enforcement doesn't want that either. I've said that many times on air. I've got to bring that up again. You know, they are concerned about that driver as well as the civilians and, of course, their own law enforcement, the California Highway Patrol. In this case, they don't want to see anybody get hurt. So when those lights and sirens are on, people are getting out of the way, being predictable. And that is good for anybody that's involved. That's keeping everybody away from that suspect, but it's also giving that suspect an open lane to drive through. The speed's kind of going up and going down as they are available to that driver. Again, though, just a little bit of a paint swap right there, and you just got to wonder what is going on. Why is she running at these type of ridiculous speeds to get away from law enforcement? It has Arizona plates on it. I wonder if maybe it's a rental. I haven't heard that, by the way. Sometimes they'll say that on the air, on the CHP frequencies. They'll kind of say it comes back to a rental company. Hard going through those lanes right there, cut off one of the vehicles, but California Highway Patrol, one of those vehicles right behind it, I'm venturing to say, yeah, they're his buddies. They're going to stay with this the best they can. You know, if anybody's wondering about a pit, I haven't heard it. I doubt they're going to do that on the freeway, especially with all these other civilian vehicles around. But believe me, if the opportunity comes up, they may use spike strips, and of course they may use that pit maneuver, but not when they're on the freeway, and especially not with other vehicles around it.
That's right. It's too precarious right now to throw down a spike strip with all of those other cars in traffic. The big concern is, though, what happened before this, during the hit and run. Yeah. Maybe minimal damage. Again, on this car, you don't know what happened to the other guy, so that is a big concern. We don't know that information right now. But what is getting off the freeway right here.
Getting off the freeway, you can see it, Lakewood Boulevard. So this is going to be one of those ones where if those high speeds continue, that's a big vehicle, but that is a newer Expedition. So I'm not saying that it's going to handle like a Porsche or a sports car, but it's definitely going to be. Look at this, little off-road. Does it go off-road? I guess it does. Look at that, right through the grass, back onto the road. You know, she's got. Look at the CHP. They're doing the same thing, and back onto the freeway. You know, we didn't see this, but we heard this earlier that. Not that off-roading part, but we did hear them get off of the freeway for just a moment on the 91 and then get back on. So that's not the first time that this vehicle has done that. You know, you've got to wonder, though, is this a destination drive or not? Because it seems very much like she got on the 91. They had a lot of options. Then they got onto the 5 freeway, but it really seems like it wasn't one of those, oh, I'm getting into traffic, let me just pick this other freeway. It almost seems like this is a destination. I'm just putting that out there. I've been wrong in the past. I'll be wrong in the future. But right now, we're going to keep an eye on it. Those speeds slowing down, but you can see how fast this vehicle, she is passing all these cars down there. This is always very worrisome, especially when we're following it in a pursuit.
Here's the good news, though. Despite all that traffic and sometimes slowing down, speeding up, we have not seen a collision yet, which is definitely good news for the innocent drivers out there just making their way on a Friday afternoon, getting to where they need to go, looking forward to the weekend. And the last thing you want to do is be stuck in a pursuit and actually get involved in one as well. So from what we see right now, thankfully, this driver has not collided or intentionally rammed any other car or gotten into any type of accident. So far, so good. We haven't jinxed it, hopefully. But again, those high speeds that we were seeing earlier, triple digits, that is really concerning, as well as going off the freeway, coming back on. Erratic driving is certainly something we don't want to see as well.
Definitely, we never want to see that. But you did make that comment, Sandra, that you never want to be. You don't want to get caught in a pursuit. Believe me, I want to be. This to me is something we love to report on. We like to keep the public notified on what's going on. And of course, it is a pursuit. We always want to see how this ends. We always hope that nobody is injured. California Highway Patrol doing an amazing job. They're staying with this one so many times. A lot of the law enforcement, because of the new policies, they basically will let it go. But for some reason, there is something else to this. There has to be, for the California Highway Patrol to stay with this for so long. Like you said, started in Barstow. Love the Barstow area, don't get me wrong, but that is so far away from here, and it has made its way all the way to this location. Going much slower out here as we're on the 5 freeway northbound. Montebello is the off-ramp. Commerce is the city. If you know somebody that might be driving out here, I know it might be dangerous to call them or text them, but maybe you might want to let somebody know, especially if you know that they're on the northbound 5. Hey, you know what? There might be a chase coming up. Just give them heads up. But a lot of these folks, they're getting the information firsthand. California Highway Patrol, lights and sirens are going, and it is actually clearing the roadway. There you go again. And you can see that expedition kind of getting up a little bit of speed as they're making their way through the Commerce area. Going to be passing the Citadel here in just a moment.
Let's take you back to a moment we saw just a couple of minutes ago with this suspect in that white expedition going off-road, getting off the Lakewood exit right there, and then getting right back onto the freeway, leading CHP officers to go off-road as well, following this vehicle, not letting this suspect go, and clearly the chase is still on. The good news, though, we haven't seen any collisions, as I've mentioned, but clearly erratic driving, as you see right there, going off-road after getting off the freeway there and then getting back on. Stu, you mentioned a destination in terms of, does this driver have a destination in mind? Maybe this driver is going somewhere that they are familiar with, knowing these freeways, so it's clear that perhaps there's a purpose in where the person is going towards. We don't know that as of right now, but that is always the big question. And again, Arizona license plate.
I'd say they're going to jail.
Not clear what that means either.
Right, Arizona license plates. A lot of times these might be rental cars. We see that quite a lot. Looks like we're maybe taking another off ramp here. You know, I don't think nope, we're not. Right through that gore point. You know, California Highway Patrol is not going to just kind of walk away from this if this vehicle gets off of the freeway. Say right now in the Southgate area, they're not just going to be like, okay, well, you know, not on our freeways. We're done. We'll just clean our hands of this and walk away. They're going to stay with this, and maybe they might hand it off to a local agency. But a lot of times we've seen it in the past. California Highway Patrol is going to follow this to the end. That vehicle's still making these little bits of turns out here, kind of blending in, but that's not what they're doing. Just trying to navigate a lot of this traffic. It is Friday traffic and definitely not Friday light. You can see it right there. I'm going to keep a little bit of a wider shot. You know, the emergency lane is always wide open, and it apparently is what she likes to drive
and this
on.
is a year ago.
But right now, staying in that far right lane, you can see those speeds picking up once again. That truck, you got to wonder about the fuel economy. How much gas do they have? There's all these questions, and I think that's one of the reasons why viewers like to watch a pursuit. They want to know. They want to see how this ends. They want to figure out what did they do. It looks like we are taking an off-ramp. I don't think we're going to go to the Citadel, but it looks like we're going to get into a lot of traffic. This is one of those spots. I know this off-ramp. I know this area, and it made a pretty good choice right there, making basically a U-turn, coming back southbound here, and we're going to be on Telegraph. This is, again, a nice wide open area. California Highway Patrol going to stay right behind it. But those folks, if she starts running red lights, this could become very, very scary for a lot of folks down there. That is a big, heavy SUV. There's also the Commerce Casino. Hopefully they don't decide to pull into there. I'm going to try to keep control of that camera. Sorry about that. Hope everybody took their Dramamine. But you can see it right there, getting to that center gore point. Speeds are really starting to pick up once again. But the law enforcement right behind it, and of course that helicopter not going to let this thing get out of its sight. Hopefully Skyfox can do the same.
That's right, the CHP helicopter, Sheriff's Department helicopter tracking this vehicle, and we know that there are at least 3 black and whites on its tail. You see traffic at a standstill and that driver running the light right there. That could have been
Yes.
very dangerous, but you see traffic on both sides, and this driver totally
That
disregarding
could
that,
have been
going in the
very
other lane, head on to
dangerous. Oh,
traffic,
no.
and then running through that light. Thankfully, no collision here. We do not want to see any loss of
No, don't
life
stop
or
under the bridge.
injuries or any innocent drivers being impacted by this, but clearly that is very erratic driving right there. And this driver, where are they turning onto at this point?
Well, we just made our way onto Washington. I drive this area not a lot, but I'm very familiar with this spot. And you know what? Some of these streets out here, I don't like to drive it at freeway speeds, and I'm not being chased by freeway speeds. It's at regular street speeds, and I'm not being chased by anybody. It can get very confusing, but again, she doesn't seem to be driving like I said, maybe going to a destination, maybe not. Made our way into a neighborhood now, but those speeds not slowing down. That stuff always kind of bothers me, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers as well. Hard turn right there. I think she actually played a little bit of rubber as she made that turn. Didn't see that fishtail. But look at that, 50 miles an hour, that big heavy SUV in a small neighborhood. Another hard turn right there. That truck, it definitely has some sort of stability control on it. No fishtail at all. And that was a pretty fast turn, and that's a heavy vehicle. California Highway Patrol, they're staying with it. Ooh, right through a stop sign right there. Again, they're not keeping track of this stuff. They're not like somebody's not sitting down there going, oh, they ran a stop sign, oh, they ran a red light. But when they do it, what I'm concerned about is somebody else might be in the area. There might be somebody just walking, riding their bike. Who the heck knows? But when these cars are moving at 50 miles an hour, running red lights out here, that always is very concerning for law enforcement, definitely all the viewers as well. And again, you can see it moving along, making our way back northbound. We're going to be on Washington Boulevard. This is a bigger street, but traffic today, making another turn. Maybe she's trying to get back to the freeway.
Oh, it's so concerning when they drive into a residential area like this, blowing stop signs and street lights. And we are getting to the point, 2:15 right now, school's letting out for a lot of schools in the area in the next half hour to hour or so. So hopefully this will come to some kind of a conclusion before there's a big threat in those neighborhoods. But clearly when she first turned onto Telegraph, I was hoping and hopeful that it was more of an industrial area, as we've seen around the Citadel, but not so much where this person's going, more so in the residential areas at this point. And you're looking at that late model white Ford Expedition maneuvering pretty well in those high speeds around those turns, making fast, quick turns right there, trying to evade the black and whites, but clearly they got their sights on her.
Got her sights on her. We're going to have to move Skyfox just a little bit because of that sound wall. Again, she's riding that emergency lane right there. Now we're going southbound 5. So we were doing north for most of that drive since we've been on air just about. So now we're turning around and going southbound. I'm going to cross out. If this is a bingo game or this is one of those ones where we're just checking stuff off, I'm going to cross off destination unless you missed her destination. But it looks like we're just turning around and now we're going the opposite direction. We're going to be in that emergency lane. You see it right there. And the speed's slowing down just a little bit, but look at all that traffic. And that California Highway Patrol, you know what, I didn't grab the shop number. That's that number on that roof to make sure, see if this is going to be the same person that entire time, that same driver. But if it is, boy, that guy's going to get a gold star when they get back to their base, because I tell you, they've been doing a fantastic job keeping up with this suspect and also being safe. Looks like we're going through it. There was a green light, but we're doing that on again, off again, a little bit of a rope-a-dope. Another California Highway Patrol, you know what, he's probably just sitting there making sure people are doing the right thing with the what is that? The HOV lane. But today maybe he's going to get a little bit of a pursuit action, squeezing on. Not a good choice. Look at all that traffic right there. So if that emergency lane goes away, not 100% familiar with it, but if that goes away, she's going to get stuck in that traffic. That might give the California Highway Patrol an opportunity to do something. But you know what? What can they do? They can't put themselves in harm's way. They can't put themselves in front of that vehicle. A pit maneuver, not with all these other cars around. Doing a little bit more off-roading right there. But, you know, the good thing is, Sandra, every time they hit those curbs, I'm always thinking to myself, how good are those tires? How did she hit that curb? You know, maybe she'll bend the rim. Maybe she'll crack the rim. Maybe it'll pop a tire. But right now, though, looks like this pursuit's continuing. And southbound 5 is where we're at through Commerce.
Wow. And clearly people don't understand or realize the amount of training that these CHP officers undergo in terms of how to drive. It sounds like a basic thing, but it's a completely different tactic and skill
Dude, I
when
was
they
just there
have
this
to
weekend.
pursue a driver like this who is erratic,
off of that
who's
freeway
a threat
this
to
weekend,
society,
flossing.
who's dangerous, and driving at high speed. So these CHP officers are trained for hours and hours knowing what to do, how to maneuver, where to basically protect the public, and how to pursue suspects like this who are a threat and who have, in fact, perhaps done something worthy of an arrest. So clearly, this is a skill that is not to be taken lightly because, again, the hours and hours of training that goes into knowing how to do this, it is an art and a skill, especially here in LA, when you consider how long these pursuits can last. So initially, just want to let our viewers know this pursuit started at about 1:31. The initial want is a hit and run in Barstow and Ranchero. That's according to the CHP and the information we're getting into our newsroom. And then there we go. The suspect took off, and so a pursuit began. And so far, they have not let up on this suspect who has gone northbound on the 5 and then back south on the 5. So clearly not sure what this driver intends to do, but thankfully we haven't seen any collisions. And we have seen, though, erratic driving at high speeds and also going against traffic, running stop signs and traffic lights. So a big concern for the community down there.
Big concern for sure. You know, California Highway Patrol and all law enforcement officers that are involved in these pursuits. Pursuit training is very serious. Those officers talk about multitasking. A lot of times they are actually making calls on the radio, saying where they are, keeping an eye on other options that they can take while they're chasing that suspect, and also making sure that the public is safe. They do a lot behind the wheel. That suspect, all that person is doing right now is driving fast and erratic. And again, of course, she doesn't want to collide with something, but, you know, in that same breath, it could happen so quickly. And if they were making our way right now on Telegraph, you see the traffic out there. I want to say a little bit tighter just because of when we go through these lights, but that one was green. We did about 2 red lights there just a few moments ago, and look at that, getting a little stuck. Getting a little stuck. Hopefully they don't get into that parking garage, but this is kind of the thing, Sandra. A lot of times we see these chases. A lot of times they're suspects. A lot of times they know, oh, let's go to LAX. Let's go to this parking garage. Let's dump the vehicle. This person doesn't seem to have that type of mindset. She's basically just driving fast, staying away from the officers, playing a game of keep away, which again is not going to last very long, because eventually the California Highway Patrol is going to follow this vehicle to wherever it goes. If those cars stay behind it, or if that helicopter follows it, some law enforcement is going to keep an eye on it for sure. But right now, I believe that was another red light. Thank goodness there was nothing going on right there. California Highway Patrol right behind it, 2 vehicles, and again that one is, I believe, has been behind it since we picked it up at that 91.5 split. And that vehicle, let's take a look at some of these speeds. I want to get up close to it and just kind of get you a real number. So 60 miles an hour right now on Atlantic. This is, you know, now we're in the East Los Angeles area. This is we know that it's going to start getting very tight out here. The cars are going to traffic's going to become a lot heavier, and of course a lot more pedestrian traffic as well. You can see it right there coming up to another, probably a red light. But this is an area where you have sidewalk cafes that we see right there. You have street vendors. You got some construction going on. This is going to be an area that gets really tight. Pedestrians in this area, I always worry. But this big SUV continues to move along. That female driver, hit and run, minor hit and run, and this is going on. I wonder what is really behind all this, and I wonder if we're ever going to really find out. But we know that we're going to follow it as long as we can. Hopefully that suspect is going to go into custody without any type of injury to herself and or anybody else as we go against traffic out here. Looks like we're running another red light. And it's just, you have to wonder, why is this happening? Why is she doing this? Why? But, you know, it is one of those ones where we're just going to watch it, keep an eye on it. California Highway Patrol doing an amazing job staying behind it. East Los Angeles, unincorporated. They do have the sheriffs out here, but some of this area is actually patrolled by California Highway Patrol. We'll keep it, and that was one of the things, too. We talk about it during the chases. There's a sheriff's vehicle right there. Believe me, he's not blindsided by that. He knows what is going on. He's been listening on the radio. They're all talking to each other, going across the median and into oncoming traffic. I don't know if those cruisers can do that. That's the reason why. That was, there you go. We were talking about pursuit training. The one that's behind them, that's one of the reasons why they do that. Because if the front one has a problem, can't get there, well, you know what? My buddy's going to be able to scoop around and get there. And it's a K9. Oh, maybe we're going to get some dog action at the end of this. But right now, we're going to keep going. The pursuit's still moving. East Los Angeles, well established out there. I wonder if we're going to get the Boyle Heights in a few moments. But that white expedition this morning, or this afternoon, still going. And that driver determined to stay away from law enforcement.
Yeah, you know, the majority of times you'll never know why a pursuit happens or begins and starts and ends, right? You never know the mindset of these drivers. We follow these and just hope and pray that nothing bad happens to the innocent public and to life and property, basically. And it is such a dangerous situation when you're in these communities, in these neighborhoods. Again, approaching pickup time for a lot of students and families out there. And then you see a high-speed, erratic driver like this. Who knows what they're thinking, where they're trying to go, and why they're doing this, but clearly a threat to the neighborhoods out there. But the hopeful thing here, from what I see, is because she is off the freeway, this driver could perhaps, there could be a point where CHP could throw down the spike strips, perhaps do a pit maneuver and stop this vehicle.
Well, you know, Sandra, we've all been watching a lot of pursuits. We live in Los Angeles. How can we not? But, you know, the thing is there's got to be a lot of stuff that lines up. The stars have really got to line up for them to do throw out that spike strip. Right now we're in an area, I'm just kind of looking, we're back in the Southgate area. So this is a spot where it's going to be the sheriff's department. Could they get involved? There's a possibility. But, you know, the car has got to have, the police or the sheriff's vehicle has got to have the spike strips in the trunk. The person driving it has to be certified, and then the opportunity has to be there as well. So there's a lot going on. It isn't just like law enforcement, everybody's got it, we're just going to jump out and throw a spike strip on the ground, and that's going to be the end of it. And also, it is a CHP pursuit. So they got to be talking to the, in this case, the sheriff's department. So there's a lot in the mix right there. I'm guessing right now we're just going to keep following it. You know, Senator, you kept bringing up the schools, and I'm seeing all those, we just passed 2 school buses and 3 school buses. Makes me think there might be a school around here, and that's another thing. You know, we just don't want to see anybody get hurt, heaven forbid a child. But there you go, kind of went a little bit against traffic and a little bit back onto the road. If anything, I'm seeing this vehicle moving just a little bit slower. So I'm wondering if maybe the adrenaline's starting to wear off for the driver, or something's going on, because the speeds, you know what, I'm just looking at the numbers. Maybe it just seems like it's going a little slower. They're still going about 50, 60 miles an hour here on these surface streets. And also, you know, we don't know. Is this her vehicle? Is this, you know, is it a rental? But I would venture to say there is some sort of navigation. Any of these new vehicles, especially a big, nice SUV like an Expedition, probably has some sort of navigation in there. So if she's trying to get back to some location, say a freeway, oh, thank goodness for that.
Nice brakes.
It wouldn't have been bad, but it would have been something right there. And that's coming to a stop, almost rear-ended that vehicle, probably getting out of the way for the lights and sirens. And, you know, that's, you know, all law enforcement say that. When you hear those lights and sirens, get to the right if you can, but be predictable if you can. And so I'm sure, like, they're hearing those lights and sirens, they're moving out of the way, but that suspect, she's just thinking, okay, I can get by. But you saw it right there. There were 2 close calls. But again, those speeds way too high for these roads. And again, we're just keeping an eye on it. Just don't want to see anybody get hurt.
That's right. Let's not only talk about speed. Let's show you moments ago how erratic this driver was, in fact, when trying to evade the CHP officers on this person's tail. Let's take a look at how this driver got off the freeway.
Oh my God, you showed that 3 or 4 times already.
And then tried to circle back and got back on the freeway, trying to lose the black and whites that were tailing this driver, but clearly they know better and are still on the
I don't know
case
why I
here.
don't like
So
this lady.
clearly, this is the erratic driving that we've been following. We've been seeing not only the high speeds here, but this type of maneuver. And that is something that shows the capability of this suspect that they're in pursuit of. Traffic not stopping this driver either. The driver going on the wrong side of the street against traffic,
We already
blowing
saw
through
this. Show us the
stoplights
main
right
picture.
there
Jeez
and stop
Louise.
signs. So a very
close
big
to the- we're
threat
paralleling the
at
freeway
this
right
point, and it's really, really disconcerting to see this driver go past 4 or so
Shut up, lady.
school
Show us the main
buses that we saw
screen.
in that neighborhood, in these residential communities, with school, I'm sure, being let out
There we
soon,
go.
and parents probably trying to pick up their kids from school to start their weekend on this Friday, or perhaps these children filing onto these school buses. So clearly this is something that CHP wants to put an end to make sure this driver who is driving erratically and dangerously gets off the streets, Stu.
That's right. You know, that is the ultimate goal for the law enforcement. They just want to bring this thing to an end peacefully. Ultimate goal for Skyfox is just to keep an eye on it and make sure we can see where this goes. Going around a building, this is the Monterey Park area. I would venture to say we are getting into an area that has a lot of city buildings and also law enforcement buildings out here, which is unusual in itself that the suspect is going through this area. But you can see that vehicle. There was very little traffic
Probably don't
on
know
that
where
road.
they
This
are.
looks to be a little bit more industrial. There are more businesses here. And when I say businesses, I mean office buildings.
Ruh-roh, they lost their sound. I'm surprised they didn't have a spike strip right there for her. Oh, airborne. Oh, yeah, those dips. Oh, she's getting out. She's getting out. She's running. She's a running. Taser, taser, taser. I thought there was people there on the... Is she just going to give up now? Dumbass. Is that the canine dog? Oh yeah, he let the canine go for a minute. Move your head out the way. We want to see what she looks like. See how stupid people look. Was she in her 20s, maybe 30s? It's hard to tell. Not too bad at driving, though. Chick did some pretty good driving there. What do you guys think? All right, I looked at the information. It says, they don't know her name. They just said the suspect drove over 100 miles an hour, blew through red lights, and went airborne after fleeing on foot and being
Absolutely.
apprehended.
Thankfully, nobody was hurt in all this. And Stu, we appreciate you and the crew up in Skyfox for your work. And we appreciate everyone tuning in.
So, yeah, I don't know. But anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. Come back tomorrow. Same bat time. Same bat channel for another...